Welcome to another LinkedIn Live session where we normally explore the common challenges that coaching organizations face every day. This is part of our coaching community initiatives. I'm Julian Carter of Delenta. As a reminder, Delenta is a digital coaching platform, helps you streamline your operations and scale efficiently. In a slight departure today from the usual topic, we're focusing on something that's very important and touches most of us in our lives. The fact that it's about cancer, really. It's about the big C word. And did you know that roughly half of us are going to face a cancer diagnosis in our lifetimes? That's a pretty shocking statistic. When I was growing up, I think it was 1 in 4, 1 in 5. So what has changed in the world? Is it what we're eating? Is it ultra processed food? Is it modern life stress? Is it pollution? Just what is it that's causing this increase? And how do we deal with all the masses of people who need treatment and counseling? So while, surgery, chemo, radiation, and things like that target the physical disease itself, nobody teaches us how to deal with the overwhelming fear and the roller coaster of side effects of life after treatment. And that's where cancer coaching comes in. It's every bit as vital as the medicines that we take. So today, I'm very honored and thrilled to be joined by 2 pioneers in the field. First of all, Andrew Parsons. He co-founded the NHS's first cancer coaching service at Royal Surrey after a career in biopharma leadership, and Aga Kehinde, with over 20 years as an oncology clinical nurse specialist who now uses EFT, NLP, and matrix re-imprinting to help patients through every stage of their journey. You'll have to tell me what that is, Aga. I'm going to change the format slightly in this episode. I'm going to ask Andrew and Aga to relate their experience between each other. They know each other. And I'm going to drop in time to time and ask some questions. So Andrew and Aga, I'm going to pass it over to you and let's get the ball rolling.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, where to start, I guess, is the first question, Aga, isn't it? But
yeah, maybe before we go any further, should we answer the question that Julian just posed about what causes the increase? I think that's quite fascinating question, because we have a tendency to move into, the negative aspects that causes the increase of living with cancer and the population that is affected by it. And when I say population affected by it, is either you're living with cancer or you know someone or your loved ones or anyone in the community that lives with cancer. And I would like to answer that real quick. So it's a combination of everything, what Julian just mentioned, absolutely. But there is one vital thing, and that is because the mainstream medicine has progressed since 20 years ago. We live longer with cancer, we live better. There is many more cancer treatment available, successful cancer treatment available. There is a big move into integrative medicine, which allows the holistic approach to it when we look at the mind, body, and spirits of treating cancer. So I think we are, as daunting as it may sound, that there is, every other person is going to be affected by cancer, we're also living better and well and longer with cancer.
And just to add as well, I think there's more knowledge in the general zeitgeist now as well, isn't there? The story of Chris Hoy and many others just raises the awareness of cancer, and hopefully then that means that people can, get it detected more easily. There's better detection, there's better diagnosis, there's better treatment. So it's the whole 9 yards again, isn't it? It's very holistic.
And knowing who you're becoming as a cancer patient.
Yeah.
So what used to be very, scary place to be, it now is a little bit more manageable. And this is what the health and cancer coaching is doing, is making sense of, who we are as a cancer patients and how empowered we may become to take care of our health. And, it could be very often a springboard into something very, very positive.
So a quick question. Do you think this 1 in 2 diagnosis is still because we're living longer?
As well.
I
do.
Is that what's shifting the numbers to be 1 in 2, or is contributory?
Yeah.
Well, the numbers are probably becoming more accurate with the better detection and diagnosis and understanding.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, guys. Let's carry on here.
But again, with many things, when we're working with people with cancer, there's no simple answer. And it's usually that, we have to take everything in the round. And I think one of the key components of what we do as coaches in this space, is very distinct from counselling or psychotherapy. And particularly working in the NHS, I mean, we're very clear, aren't we, around the distinctions between the different processes or the different orientations of support that we can bring to people. But it's about bringing the right support at the right time for the right person.
I think that's the key
I guess you see
ingredient.
that in integrative. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I think that's the key ingredients, bringing the right resources in the right time and being able to identify what the resources are, because traditionally we didn't have that much support in the realm of moving into living well with cancer. So now we do.
Yeah, and it's amazing to work in this space, actually. And as Julian says, this is something that's in everybody's life. It will be in the workplace, it's outside the workplace, it's in our personal lives. Yeah. And I think my experience is that coaching can be such a powerful process, if I can call it that, for folks. It can really help them move on. And I mean, I guess our experience is working across the whole cancer experience, from even before diagnosis, if we're working in some organizations, but through diagnosis all the way through treatment and beyond, and even end of life as well. Coaching can play a significant role.
No, absolutely. And I think coaching could be a really powerful tool in that, in the moment of discovering there is something not right, but we don't have a cancer diagnosis yet. And it could be a great behavioral change tool towards taking care better of your health and creating that health moving forward. So yes, definitely across the spectrum.
And of course there may be some lifestyle changes there as well. And I think we've always said, haven't we, for many years, that the work of the coach in this sort of space is across a continuum.
Yeah.
Because some of the work we do will be very behavioural change, and working with people before surgery, for example, and the prehabilitative space can be something around activity or diet or nutrition, and even mindset, and some of the behaviours and relationships that people have can be retuned. But going all the way through the experience, post-treatment and through treatment, there can be a lot more developmental pieces. And it's interesting because that's part of the opportunity that was brought into the NHS service was actually helping people through those life-changing moments to create more sense or more direction or re-establish meaning and purpose in their lives. And I guess that's very much what you find in the integrative space as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I like that. The fact we kind of working across the continuum, and in which, like you said, with, for example, the surgical intervention and all the aspects around that, which could be just simple, getting you move a little bit more, because that will then increase your capacity in which you're going to be then feeling better after surgery, in the simple words. But also there's something about the managing the stresses associated with it. And very often what happens, it's an amalgamation of all those things that you just said, because the one big thing I found in current treatment plan through the mainstream therapy is the extreme fastness of it. So you can have everything happening to you within the space of a week or two, which brings a lot of issues with making a sense of what's happening to me, managing the stresses and anxieties. Where do I have a chance to kind of sit with it and really feel and think of what's happening to me right now? So cancer coaching in general can be a great tool to just have that moment of reflection and space that has been created to you, when you can build awareness of what's happening and what it means to you. And even if that's fast-paced situation, and then you can learn, you can ask, you can expand your knowledge, and then you can actually develop a great strategies, tools, and skills to help yourself, because coaching is about really ultimately helping yourself and get that empowerment through it. And a lot of our patients feel that it's like all of a sudden everything is taken out of their hands because of it's happening so fast. We're told what to do, how to do it, and then all of a sudden they losing all the control of it. And that could be very anxiety provoking and very scary place for people to be in. So bringing that back into this space, and coaching does that beautifully, is something that we are very we are very happy to do it.
Yeah, no, totally. It is that space of empowerment and agency, isn't it? And I think the number of clients that I've worked with who maybe come through treatment, but then there's a huge amount of uncertainty and change. And we've heard from a whole host of members of society recently. I would imagine in various sectors and such about that, the impact that makes. Whether we're royalty or whether we're not, the impact is quite considerable. And I think that's the support we can bring to people.
And I also is worth mentioning the flip side of it. So as a healthcare professional, so I've been in the space when I was a nurse who had a particular knowledge and was taught to give that knowledge and be an expert in the room. And all of a sudden, very often I felt disempowered because I felt there is something more than. I've been always very holistic and very aware of what other aspects are there. And this is why my passion to integrative medicine, because all of a sudden, I had the knowledge that there is stuff out there, and I was quite restricted in the way how I was delivering and dealing with patients within that space. And just having that coaching skills added to my professional background give me that opportunity. Well, actually, do you know what? There is this space in which the patients can take care and tell me what they need and how they need it, and I can just sit on the side and not be that responsible in that space, of course, because when I'm in my nursing space, that's a different environment. In that coaching space, that was taking off me, and what you were, Julian, referring, like how do you keep yourself safe as a professional, that the coaching skills really make me feel safe in that space. So there's a shared co-creation of the future rather than just me telling people what to do and they rely on that. It's very empowering space and experience.
Yeah, well, we've said it, haven't we, for our work, actually, those three phases of empowerment, because I think as guides, as coaches, we support our clients to become aware. And check the reality. We I think particularly in the space of in cancer, we may share information, and that's different from giving advice. Of course, it's just creating awareness of things, and there may be a whole range of different processes like EFT, which I think are really part of that whole health education agenda, because these are really powerful tools and approaches for self-care.
Yeah.
And just imparting that to people can be really, really powerful. But it is really creating that learning space and supporting people sort of move beyond where they currently are. I think that's the essence for me.
For me, the key word that you just said is the self-care. I think cancer can be a very scary word for both who experience it and people who support. So if I was a coach in the corporate space, having been dealing with someone who had a recent cancer diagnosis or coming back to work could be quite a scary place, because I feel like I need to have a particular knowledge in order to give advice. And coaching takes that pressure away, because it is about empowering person to search and to explore, and we just bring in the awareness. So what that means, how does it play in your life, and is that linked to any past experience that may perhaps bring some trauma from the past, and that have an impact on how you respond to words and situations and encounters and that sort of things. So self-care is a key word for me in here, and because of that space becomes safe for both practitioner and then the patient or colleague or person that you support with. So the message that I took from it is I can feel safe in that space, and also that's what I want to portray in here. There is a safe space for coaches in the C word.
No, definitely. And I think just to share, as you know, I had my own cancer experience a couple of years ago, but actually I developed so many resources from supporting people. It was wonderful, to develop your own skills and co-create that space with people. Because unfortunately, when it happened to me, it was really powerful to have and that knowledge and that wisdom and that some of those skills are in my back pocket, so to speak. Self-care.
So it's very interesting, because you coming from that what we'll call lived experience, right, of having a cancer, and my journey was through the experience of the burnout and empathy strain within the giving care for patients, and that's how I explore all the tools and techniques that were supporting me, and now I flip it around and give it to a patient. So that's you're very lucky, Julian, have a both lived experience sides in here.
So I mean, Delenta, we always talk about the impact of coaching, and how do you measure that impact? In cancer coaching, how do you measure your impact, quantitatively or qualitatively? How do you do it? Is there any markers that you use to measure?
Go on, researcher Andrew.
Well, it's interesting, and I think for me it's about coaching people with cancer. And actually, you know, as part of any contracting session that we, you know, all good coaches do, I would hope, is we explore what the client wants to achieve.
Okay.
And I think one of the key things I would share from the work that I think we do, Aga, is actually some of the very specific objectives are very, very difficult to define when you're living with such uncertainty. So actually, we may work towards more intentions. And you know, this is something I think is a key difference, really, because actually there may be a direction of travel, which as we get there, the goals emerge.
Yeah.
You know, it could be, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to, you know, do my job in the future. You know, 'cause I don't know how much physical energy I'm going to have. Don't know whether I want to spend my time doing that anymore. Okay, so let's figure out where we're going. What's the direction of travel? And you know, those are what we would probably call, well, I would probably call process goals. Because those are helping the client get through and reach their own, whether they be, you know, lag measures, either, you know, the final goal, the objective or such, or just actually moving along to get more clear about what they're going to be. But that's something we just revisit all the time, as I do with my exec clients. You know, is this working? Are we going in the right space? Do we need to change?
Got it. Yeah.
The outcomes is a different question, because actually, who are the outcomes for? You know,
Well,
it gets
right,
really interesting.
Yeah, it's a one-on-one personal thing for somebody who's got cancer, or I don't know if you do it via the NHS and they want to know how effective it is. Perhaps I don't know, but
well, I think some of the, from my perspective, I'd say that you know, the work that we do in that space isn't really clinical.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's a social model, because actually we're working with the person. Of course, prehab has a lot of data showing that actually if people increase their activity and you know, adjust maybe some of the beliefs and mindsets around
Level
cancer,
of engagement
and levels of engagement in treatment, the clinical benefits of that, I think, are very well, from my understanding, you probably know more about this than I do, very well established, I think, in many different cancer areas.
Yeah. And because we don't have yet a like embedded NHS purely coaching models just yet, what we do within the Royal Surrey is a integrative approach. So we have a centre in which we provide elements of the care that is it's additional to the main model. So the outcome measures are not so important for the NHS at the moment, apart from the outcomes being measured by the level of patients engaging and how stressed they feel and that sort of thing. So there's two different things. I also work in the clinic that is a purely integrative medicine clinic in which we support patients with cancer coaching. So we kind of a little bit more in an environment when we could measure something more. So we have few evaluations that are standard evaluation. We would measure the general well-being, we would measure anxiety levels, those sort of things. And that's how we kind of see the outcome measures in that way. But we also measure within the session. So, you know, we use subjective units of distress all of the time. So that is a validated tool and kind of helps how people are feeling in the space and whether they can manage their stress within the session. So there's a few different tools that we do use, but yeah, probably not so structured in terms of to share like what are the actual outcome measures.
And don't forget that the client's objectives may change several times through the coaching pathway, you know, particularly if there's some emergent clinical data, shall we say, that isn't good news, then things can change. Likewise, if there's good news, well, things can change. So it's very much in the moment, you know, of where we support people and where their experience is driven from.
And I suppose this is a good kind of leading way into shining a light a little bit on the coaches themselves, because if the coaches are very strict on the goal setting and the measures, that could be a quite challenging space to operate in, because the level of flexibility and uncertainty is constantly in there. So you know, we in the center where Andrew set it up, we are very keen on having regular supervision in which we explore that level of flexibility and what it means to us as a practitioners and as a coaches, how much we can tolerate, you know, what is our window of tolerance in that space when everything is just changing and we just set up one goal and then someone is coming up and everything changes. I can throw people out a little bit. So just softening that framework that we are very keen on in coaching space it's something that I found it really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, how do you maintain your own resilience in this space or avoid compassion fatigue? Because You're taking on quite a lot as a person personally all day long. If you're doing it all day long. I know my wife is a therapist. She works at NHS, and she listens to people all day long, and she can feel really drained at the end of the day. What's your coping mechanisms for things like that?
Well, I think Aga's already mentioned one of them: supervision. It's absolutely essential, for coaches who work in this space. But I think there's also, being really mindful and present with what's going on for ourselves. Yeah. But that comes into the whole supervision contract then as well, in how we support coaches and how the coaches support each other. So there's a real element there of being very tuned in to what's going on within me. And around me, so that whole mindfulness and presence space. Yeah. And of course there's the ability to sort of maybe not regulate emotions, but be with our emotions and share them and not be trapped by them. I think that's a really core area for me. Because and also I lost both parents to cancer, which was interesting when I started work in this space. I didn't want to work in cancer originally, specifically because I lost both my mum and dad. And I thought, well, one day I'm going to meet them, metaphorically, of course. And of course I did. Yeah. But sticking to the process, working with supervision, understanding and having that conversation almost before you get there can be really, really powerful. Yeah. And I'm so glad I did, because sometimes the world puts you in a position where you think, okay, so I'm here for a reason. Let's lean in and go for it.
It seems to me, Andrew, that coaching in cancer should be all part of the process. Really, it should be, yes, you're having medical treatment, but you should have the coaching as well built in, because do you see it going more mainstream and being embedded as a normal practice?
I would love to see it that way, and I think one of the challenges we have is where does it fit within the medical model or the social model? And is it just within the treatment phase or beyond the treatment phase? Because you've got different stakeholders and different policy providers across that broad framework. And of course, coaching is integrative across it all. But the role of a coach or a health coach or a wellness coach, my experience, it can be truly transformational for the people we serve.
Absolutely, yeah.
And certainly we do see the shift in awareness and understanding what coaching is, first of all, and then what coaching is in the space of healthcare. So, doctors and nurses, they well aware of what coaching is. They utilizing themselves, they becoming coaches. We have coaching style conversation training. So that awareness is raising, which is great. And of course there is all work that we do within the Health Coaching Association in the UK here, when we're trying to educate and raise the awareness about what health coaching is and how can be utilized. And then of course there is a big element, and that's how NHS unfortunately or maybe fortunately operates. There needs to be a validated research, good quality research into it, and building the case of how is that going to help the patient. So we don't want to occupy the mental health provision space, and also we're not in that clinical aspect, so we sit in between. But what I feel from the perspective of a clinician and a nurse for a long time is that the coaching become an enabler. So it reduces the stresses, it creates empowered patients, and we really want empowered patients. We want patients to be, being able to take care of their health, make a decision. So decision-making process is a big issue within the space of the healthcare, complex decision. And the complexity is only released with the knowledge and capacity to hold that complexity. And having coaching is something that is really powerful for patients in that. Because complex decision making is about sense making and where we are and who we are in that space and what is best for us.
And that's a great topic for a coaching conversation. I've got this decision. Okay, so what's important to you about it's a wonderful space. The other thing I was going to say, actually, just from I think the role of the coach there is a professional coach, which is almost like that intention of being there for the client with their goals, from that coaching approach which a professional may have, which is kind of aligned with the goals of the client in some way. I lived that as a leader. When we brought coaching into one of the companies I was working in many years ago, I was one of the technical supporters of bringing coaching. I could see the difference myself. because as a leader, I'd use a coaching approach, but I'm invested in the outcome.
Yeah.
It's still really, really powerful, and you can bring people and align them. But I also worked as an internal coach in the organisation in GSK, where actually I was working with people in different divisions, and I had no investment to the outcome. That was a really great learning experience about how to tune in to just removing myself from that outcome role and focus. And I think that's where the human development and the behavioral change can really see some marked, or what's the word, an enabler for actually helping individuals create that change. If you're just there alongside them with no other accountability, just other than for them, I think that's where the magic can really happen, as coaches.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, we're coming towards the end of time now, but if someone's looking for a coach that works in your specialist area, how should they go about finding you, or in general finding people? Often I find it's word of mouth, but that can be limiting sometimes. How would you advise people to do that?
I think always go to the professional associations and find the coach. Ask the coach about their experience and their credentialing, the background experience. For some people, it's really important that they have a coach that's had the experience of cancer. For others, less so. And I would just say, just be really clear about what you're looking for from your coach. And is this person the best coach for me? And that they should have, stick to professional guidelines. There'll be an ethical contract. And always a great question to ask is, how do you signpost on when coaching is no longer appropriate?
Fortunately, we don't have a directory, but there is a few very trusted resources that we will recommend. So as Andrew was saying, any association. So UK Health Coaching Associations have a directory of health coaches, and some of them specialize in cancer coaching or have extended experience in coaching. You're always going to have local holistic centers attached into the NHS hospitals and cancer centers, and they are really good resources. There is British Society for Integrative Oncology, and we share a lot of resources as well about that. We've got Yes to Life, which is the online great website with a lot of integrative resources, and they have a directory of practitioners, including health coaches in cancer space. So I think, being really mindful of where you're getting that information from. We know how media and internet is full of different things, and we need to be really mindful. So always go into good association, trusted resources.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good to do your due diligence and make sure that people are properly certified. I think there's another episode I can do about, I could become a coach tomorrow. There's nothing stopping me from becoming a coach tomorrow. I can call myself a coach, like some other businesses as well. You can just step into it straight away, but it's really important to do your research, make sure the people you're talking to are qualified to do the work. And I think I'll do another episode on that, about all that area.
Well, it just shows, Julian, how important it is that we bring that professional accreditation and quality focus, and I think that's where the UK Health and International Health Coaching Association are really setting a standard for health coaches being recognised at that level.
Yeah, definitely be asking you both for all these links, so I can put those in the webinar resources afterwards. So about to wrap up, is there anything else you want to cover for the next few minutes or so? Anything we've not covered you'd like to speak about, guys? Anything you'd like to mention at all?
I think from my two things. Once as a practitioner, perhaps one as a patient. I think when I noticed a lump that shouldn't be there, it took a lot of energy to reach out and go and get the diagnosis, and I was so pleased I did. As a practitioner, it's just be our job is just to be with our client. That's it.
Yeah. And for me, from the perspective of someone who works with patients all my life, being tuned into that empathy strain and being aware what's the difference between being compassionate witness to someone's story versus to be empathetic partaker of the story is really important. There's distinct difference in between and what it means to you. And I am really lucky because now I educate healthcare professionals around the cancer and communication and cancer coaching style conversation.
Mhm.
And just being aware of what your beliefs are around cancer, because that will really set the ground moving forward. So if you have something that needs to be sorted and deal with, and from the past that still affects you and trigger you, it's worth to, as a coach, to start from that. So clear that out first. Be really mindful of your beliefs, because that will affect you, how you know, how empathetic you are, or whether you've got capacity to be compassionate. So that's from that. And as a cancer coach, I feel that being able to create that safe space for empowerment is the biggest gift that I've you know, along my career. And I thank you, Andrew, because it took him a year to move me from the nursing hat into the coach hat. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Aga and Andrew, for joining today. It's been fantastic hearing your perspectives on cancer coaching. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and watch out for the next episode that's coming your way soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.